Hello, happy Thursday. George appears to be joining me again. How are you? So I'm recording this a little bit later in the day for various reasons which I really want to share with you. So Mercury is currently in Aries, and when Mercury is in Aries, she's the voice of inspiration, but also she's really blunt, she's really direct, she really values honesty, straight upfront honesty. She's great at bringing through new ideas, new inspirations, very fast thinking, very impatient with people who are maybe slower thinking, and can be prone to some explosive outbursts. So the reason that I am recording this a lot later in the day, next door neighbours builders are in full swing, is because I have Mercury in Aries, and I can be incredibly blunt, and mix that in with the fact that I'm from Yorkshire, which means we're naturally blunt and call a spade a spade. Sometimes there are times when we just need to temper what we are going to say. We need to really think about how we are communicating, and I have Mercury in Aries. I am an Aries, and I have Sagittarius rising, Sagittarius moon, so I'm naturally incredibly fiery. So the reason I didn't record anything this morning is because I was feeling full of fire and full of a bit of righteous indignation, full of a kind of everything was really getting to me. It felt very volcanic, kind of bubbling up, and I could have recorded a video, but it wouldn't have been the right energy. It would have just been really ranty, really, shooting from the hip, and not necessarily very heart-led, not necessarily productive, shall we say. So I was getting particularly wound up about a couple of things that have been going on more in the collective, more in the kind of spiritual community, that I've been seeing patterns, and it's like, oh, I really want to call that out. But actually, it was going to be too explosive. It was going to be too much. So when you start to really study astrology, when you begin to know where your placements are in your natal birth chart, your birth chart mandala, you start to work with the energies and start to be quite discerning about when it's right to talk and when actually it's better just to hold your nerve and take a few deep breaths and reframe the situation. So that's what I really want to share with you a bit about my Thursday thoughts, is because Mercury in Aries, because it's an incredibly blunt energy, an incredibly fiery energy, we're going to see personally and collectively, as George has a wash, a lot of people kicking off, a lot of people kind of building up and exploding like volcanoes. And when we need to explode like a volcano, we need to explode from our heart. We need to channel that wisdom, that energy into a place of love and compassion, and it can still be very blunt, but we just need to do it from our heart rather than just kind of having these little explosions left, right and centre. And I've spoken to a couple of Aries this week, and we're all in this really fiery energy of wanting to express our truth, but almost knowing that actually expressing our truth in a very typical Aryan way isn't going to be productive at the moment. So if any of you fire signs particularly have been feeling quite explosive, my tip for this is don't shoot from the hip. Really take a moment to take stock of what you want to say. How are you going to express it? Do you need to walk away like I did from the camera this morning and go, actually, you know what? Now is not the right time to respond. I need to really think about my response. I need to walk away from my laptop before I send that email. I need to just take a moment before I respond to that text. I am going to do something later in the day. So it's not about delaying and not speaking your truth. It's about speaking your truth from a very measured way, a very heartfelt way, without the kind of explosion which can often get other people's backs up. So when I am communicating, when I listen to other people communicate, I want them to speak from the heart. I want them to be blunt. I want them to be honest. But I also want to see passion in their voice, but not anger, not fear, not derision in their voice. And it's a very fine line, and it's my personal way of, if people want to communicate with me, be blunt, be really honest, have passion, but don't be angry. Don't get caught up in the moment so that rash words are spoken. So that's a real thing to think about, particularly as we go into this Aries season. So we're still in Pisces season, then we have this beautiful spring equinox, and Mercury continues her journey into Aries, and when she gets to 27 degrees of Aries on, I think, the 1st of April, someone will tell me if I've got the date wrong because I've got it in front of me, she goes into retrograde. So she gets to 27 degrees and then she goes backwards through Aries. So now is the time. Now Mercury is in Aries. We've got what, three weeks ish before she goes in retrograde, about that, to really think about how we're speaking. Use this as a training ground to speak from your heart, be honest and be open, but don't be inflammatory, because as we get into that Mercury retrograde, a Mercury retrograde in a fire sign can be dreadfully inflammatory. And we don't want to get into that energy, because we are going to see that energy in the collective. We're going to see people kicking off left, right and centre. But astrology gives us this guide point. It gives us a point of, here is what is going to happen. Now it's your choice. How are you going to colour in the framework? What colours are you going to use? What patterns are you going to use before we get to the next seed point, which would be Mercury going direct? How are you going to act? How are you going to communicate? How are you going to speak? So quite timely today that pops up. So Mercury is direct, we're still blunt, we're still in communication, we're still not in that totally explosive energy that can happen with a Mercury retrograde, but we are going to go into that energy. So maybe using these next few weeks just as a little bit of a training ground. What is your truth? How are you expressing it with passion? Are you getting angry about things? Are you kicking off on social media with your gripes, with whatever's going on for you? Or are you being constructive? Are you conveying your truth with your heart? Are you conveying your message with your honesty? And being really mindful that some people are still taking, that's George gone, their time to assimilate ideas and concepts. So are we getting really cross with people because they're not as fast thinking as we are at the moment? So it's really finding that equilibrium within yourself and finding equilibrium within the collective. And the way that we do that and find that equilibrium is not to feed into what's going on in the collective, not to give it the fuel to get really, really angry, but just to take a step back and really go, okay, what is my truth? Am I going to have an explosive outburst here? Or actually, can I rein it back? Can I just stop and think? So the key message for the next few weeks is, you're going to explode. Can you take a couple of deep breaths? Can you walk away from that situation and come back when you're feeling more articulate, more heart-led? Are you going to explode like a volcano and see the reverberations, or are you going to think about it, and then as you let your truth come up, it's not like pyroclastic flow, scattering everywhere, but it's really direct, it's really honest. It can be blunt, it can be passionate, but you're not causing deeper ripples into the collective by your actions and by your word, by your communications. So lots to think about. So if you know you've got a natal Mercury in Aries, or if you are a fire sign, let me know in the comments. It'd be great to hear your experiences. And even if you're none of those, just watch how you're communicating, just watch those outbursts. Can you be a little bit more heart-led, a bit more passionate and blunt, but heart-led? So I am sending you so much love. I will be in Dorset on Saturday with Tim Wilde, Karen Main, Emma Sullivan and Melissa Virtue. Really, really magical spring equinox. Soul Ascension Day. The link is in my bio. I'm sure there's still time to book and join us. So super looking forward to creating magic there, and I will see you all via video on Tuesday. All being well. Take care. Lots of love.